And that's the key to Rabbinic Judaism. It's, Yahweh says don't work, but man is too stupid. Man is too slow. They're mentally slow. They need us to define what work is. So if you go from here to there, it's work. If you go from point A to point C, we're not sure. But if you go from point A to point D, you're really working and breaking the Shabbat. So in other words, they put this wall around the Torah, and their intentions were good. They weren't, in this case, they weren't bad. They put this wall around the Torah, so there were so many rules to break Shabbat that no one could ever break Shabbat, at least they thought, by putting up these walls, okay? So when you come to Rabbinic Judaism today, you're coming to a system designed, basically, to keep you out. Unless, of course, you happen to be Messianic. In other words, if you were a Buddhist, would they come after you? No. If you were a Methodist or Hare Krishna, they wouldn't come. But because you're talking Torah and you're talking Messiah, you're hitting home. They're threatened. People that are threatened lash out. So what we see is, they're reaching out is more lashing out, because what are they reaching out with? Well, they're reaching out with spiritual cyanide. So to me, there's not so much of an outreach as it is a lashing out rather than a reaching out. She'elot. Questions? Questions? Come on, guys. I don't bite.
I have one.
Yeah.
So we have this book, we have the scriptures, and even this is incorrect. Okay, so
Correct.
is
Isn't
there
that
going
same?
to be something that is correct?
That is a very good question. It's a tough question to answer. Has anyone actually taken the time to go back and to undo these things? The answer is no, not as of yet. And then, of course, the playing devil's advocate, they'll say, well, there are many, and here's the devil's advocate. There are many, today, many English versions of the LXX, the Greek. In other words, even the original Greek LXX that the Talmudim used as the basis of the Brit Chadashah no longer exists. So today, we can have 10 English versions of the Septuagint, and they would differ from each other. See what a mess this is? So let's assume somebody wanted to do what you suggest and go back and get rid of the Masoretic text as the basis for our Tanakh. Question is, what English version of the Septuagint do you use? There's so many out there. It's a problem. It's a big problem. Good question. Brother Silvio, I can't believe that's you. Last time I saw this guy, man. Clean shaven, from the St. Thomas Virgin Islands. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. What's cooking? Talk to me.
What about those who will argue that the Septuagint has been also revised in its original Greek, in that the name of Yahweh was once there and it's been removed, so if they've removed that, well, they may have done some other changes as well.
100% correct, which is what we just addressed. 100% correct. And what is the response? We don't know. If they say to me, okay, Sylvia, okay, I buy what you say. Now, which of the 10 Septuagint versions do we use in the English? And which of the 500 or 800, whatever, do we use in the Greek? They differ. See, and that's where the anti-missionary comes in. See, even your Septuagint differs. You won't even know what to use, so you've got to rely on our Masoretic. You see how slick the enemy is? We have no choice at this point in our history to rely on the Rabbinic Masoretic. Pretty sad. Now, don't misunderstand me. 90% of the Masoretic is pure, preserved, unadulterated word of Yahweh. We're talking about all the Yeshua things that the rabbis took out. Questions?
Yes. In Herod's slaughter of the children, if you go back in the Tanakh and look at that passage, it's a restoration of the two houses. Do you deal with that in the book? Because they'll say,
absolutely. Deeply. That's a good point. Let's just turn there to Matityahu. If you find the verse, let me know where that is. Listen to this, it's very important. It's a very good question. Luke. Is that Matityahu probably? Yep, Matityahu. Tell me if you find that verse. I believe it's in 2. 18. Yep. Okay. Then Herodes, having seen verse 16, that he was fooled by the Magi, was greatly enraged. He sent forth and slew all the male children of Bethlehem and all his borders from 2 years old and under, according to the time when they had exactly learned from the Magi. Then was filled with the spoken by Yirmiyahu the prophet, saying, the voice was heard in Ramah, wailing, weeping, great mourning, Rachel, Rachel, weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted because there were no more. That is an excellent question, because it helps me make my point. What was my first point of this whole workshop? They do, but they don't allow you to do what they do. In the Pashat, now where's the original passage? Keep your finger in Matthew 2. I believe it's in Yirmiyahu, what, 30? 31, right? 14. Yirmiyahu 31, 14. 15, thus saith Yahweh, a voice heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children because they are no more. Hold back your voice from weeping, your eyes from tears. There is a reward for your work, declares Yahweh. They will return from the land of their enemy. There is expectancy for your latter end, declares Yahweh. Your children shall return to their country. So who are Rachel's children biologically? Yosef and Benjamin. So in its pashat, or literal primary application, it's a clear text that has nothing to do with the Messiah. And that's how the anti-missionary gets you. Matthew takes incredible liberty that poets and literary artists don't take. But he's got that freedom in the Ruach HaKodesh. Because 1 Corinthians 2:16 says, where the Spirit of Yahweh is, there is liberty. And Yahweh is that Spirit. For those who don't think the Ruach is Yahweh, it says Yahweh is the Spirit. Okay? So, the anti-missionary goes, Frank, you're beside yourself. You want us to believe a Brit Chadashah, where they talk about the ingathering in Jeremiah 31. It talks about Rachel's children, Joseph, Ephraim, coming home, the house of non-Jewish Israel, and Benjamin, Jewish Israel, coming home, taking a return of exile scripture and sticking it on the Mashiach. This has nothing to do with the Mashiach. Are they right? Yes or no? If we stick to one level of Hebraic interpretation, they're right. If we drop down to the remez, the second level, or the hint, so primarily, Ephraim's coming home. Secondarily, the Moshiach is coming home to bring back Rachel's children. So the primary application is, they're coming home. The hint is, this is how they're coming home. Matthew, in the Ruach, sees not just the what, but the who of how they're coming home. Okay? But if you're not ready, that's exactly how they get you. Because in the Pashat, this has nothing to do with Mashiach. It is the return of both houses of Israel. But Matthew, writing in a hint, remez, says, now, here's how Rachel's children come home. The one that's being sought for, he's the one that will fulfill and end Rachel's crying. Mashiach. Well, he had to get that by a revelation from Yahweh. And so in order for Frank to believe the Brit Chadashah is inspired, you're going to have to accept Matthew 2:16 and 17 on a remez, because it doesn't fit on the Pashat. And the anti-missionary expects you not to understand that they use remez, but that somehow the Brit Chadashah is a fabricated document because they use remez. But they can do it though. That's okay. Like, you want to give you a perfect example of remez? How many fingers did Moshe have when he received the 10 Commandments? Huh? 10 fingers. 10 fingers. How many plagues were there in Mitzrayim? 10. So you know what the rabbis say? Okay, since Moshe has 10 fingers, and since Yahweh is greater than Moshe, and since there were 10 plagues, so therefore Yahweh's fingers are more powerful than Moshe's. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000,000 more power than Moshe's fingers. So Yahweh's fingers are more That's what's in the Talmud. Oh, they say that Yahweh took Israel out from Egypt with an outstretched arm. Really? Okay. So wait a second. Outstretched arm, how many fingers are on an arm? 5. But wait a second, there were 10 plagues. 10 divided by 5, that must mean Yahweh used 1 finger for each plague. Now they get away with this stuff. You know why?